organizations, we've had different individuals, a lot of our student body that have gone through our recovery programs that were homeless at one time. And so it's been really cool just to communicate and talk to folks.
Yeah, I think there's a misunderstanding about the homeless, and it's just a very unique sort of. Every story is sort of very unique and can't be handled with just a blanket.
Yeah.
It's not a cookie cutter issue that. Um, it's complicated, right? And it can be messy, but it's in my opinion, I find it very resolvable in Amarillo. I mean, we do have a high density of homelessness here, but at the end of the day, you're really only talking about 650 people.
Yeah.
That's not a crazy number.
We ready? Are we live? I'm here with Chris Israel with Homeless Heroes. Man, thank you for coming out and joining us. Helping those that we help, but maybe in a different aspect. And so, I'm just gonna let Chris talk for a moment. Tell us about you. Tell us about your organization, how you got involved, and then we'll have about your thoughts on some homeless situations.
Sure. Well, that into 17 one bedroom, one bathroom, HUD compliant apartments for homeless veterans. So it will be a service supported, permanent housing solution for homeless veterans in Amarillo.
That's fantastic.
Housing solution for homeless veterans in Amarillo.
That's fantastic.
Super ambitious project. We're right in the middle of our construction phase, and it's just adding the inventory doors to Amarillo's affordable housing market is really important. And our veterans will be able to utilize housing vouchers and excuse me, and just it is a really great project. And often some of these organizations in town that provide housing after they're doing intakes and programming for folks around town, they housing and they put them in this box, and because the recidivism of returning to homelessness after you've been housed is very high.
Yeah.
And we want to sort of catch that further upstream and get them reestablished and back on their feet. I've been doing case management in Amarillo for, I was with another nonprofit before I was with Homeless Heroes doing rapid rehousing for homeless veterans. I did that for 7.5 years and housed hundreds of veterans, families here in Amarillo. And, this project is so just important in adding those needed inventory doors and the access to services for veterans. And it being located directly across the street from the Amarillo VA is just experiences. I can't tell you how valuable that's been for me. I can't tell you how valuable that's been for me. I was chronically homeless for, a couple of years, and just traveling across the country, and just sort of lost in the sauce, and never put roots down. And now I've been in Amarillo since 2014, and my roots are now put down here.
Yes.
I'm the executive director of a multi-million-dollar project, and nonprofit that helps, veterans get off the street, and that's my, that's my lot. And that's where we're at. So it's a great project. It's a great program where, I've got an amazing board of directors, and, everybody, including the community, are all in with our project, and I'm super proud of it.
That's awesome. So in your experience, because it's not, your experience is a little bit different than a lot of people's, because you've lived it.
Sure.
As a homeless veteran. In your experience, what do you believe that you can share? What is the true, and maybe it's a hard number to come by, but in the Amarillo area, what percentage of our homeless population do you believe or you've experienced are veterans?
So the realistic number is between 15 and 20%.
It's a large number.
Nationally, it's about that number. It's about 22%. So veterans make up only 7% of the population. So it's disproportionate in the homeless community, right? That only 7% of Americans are veterans.
Yeah.
20 to 25, 22% of the homeless population are veterans.
Yeah.
So that's a disproportionate number. So at any given time in Amarillo, you're looking at between 12 and 40 homeless veterans on the streets.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have identified the majority of vouchers, and they're designated by HUD to go to eligible veterans. So it's in and above the regular housing vouchers. So you have veterans walking around the streets with housing vouchers in hand who can't find affordable housing or housing that meets their needs. It's not on a bus line. They don't have a car. It's out in the boonies. So, our location is ideal. Another Chance House does similar things, and it's just, I think that we're going to change the game here in Amarillo. And this is just our first project, right? The 17 units. We plan to do, the next project, which I don't necessarily want to think about yet, is 20, 25 units, and our veterans will come and stay with us for between 12 and 36 months until they can be self-sustaining, and then they'll transition out into the community and be self-sustaining.
Yeah.
So
we've had several. I've got some right now. I've got several veterans that were homeless, and of course the addiction that comes with that. And they've come into the face guest at first, aftercare, but then when his aftercare was coming to an end, we actually had a spot come open on staff. We hired him. Well, with that came a living quarters. He got his own apartment, and he'll tell you even now, man, if not for that opportunity, one, to have a job, to make my own money again, that was legal money,
absolutely,
and then to have a place to live, have a home. Man, it's huge, and I think a lot of times we overlook that, especially, my heart. I've got a heart for veterans. My grandfather was a veteran. I've got multiple friends and family members, but I feel like, and we can get way out in the weeds on it, but I feel like we take these men and we make warriors out of them, program them for that, and then when they've serviced out, we just drop them back into civilian life without the deprogramming and the, hey, let's get you back to society.
That's a real problem.
Yeah, and I see these men that they're struggling with PTSD, they're struggling with the anxiety disorders and the social disorders, because now they don't know how to respond and to connect outside of the platoon.
They don't know how to interact when those dopamine spikes that they're so used to living on go away.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes. I mean, part of the difficulty in transitioning out of the military is you miss your boys, you miss your pals, you miss your teammates, you miss your battle buddy, you miss your shipmates, and you had structure.
Yeah.
And
for so many of them, they didn't have family before they went in. That becomes their family, and then they get out, and now they're out here. They don't have family again.
Absolutely.
And they have no idea, what do I do with myself?
That is the case for the majority. My opinion is that's the case for the majority of veterans who find themselves homeless. There are plenty of veterans who get out of the military and deal just fine.
Yeah.
Plenty. But for the ones who struggle and the ones who ultimately hit the street, that's the issue.
Yeah.
Is they have lost their structure.
Yeah.
They've lost their benefits. They've lost their steady paycheck, and they don't know how to function outside of a unit.
Yeah.
And because they've been, programmed to, fight whatever the fight is, whether they're, they're a mechanic, or they're a warfighter, or they're a computer technician, whatever it is. They don't know how to function if they don't have to be at work at 0600.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely an issue. And it's the housing first philosophy that everybody wants, that is proven to work, right? That once you can, everything gets better once you're inside of 4 secure walls, right? And you can lock your door at night. Your health starts to improve. Your nutrition starts to improve.
Your mental health
Your
improves.
ability to, cook for yourself improves. Your life skills start to improve. Your ability to apply for jobs starts to improve. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We all know that pyramid, and you got to build those sustainable foundations that stack on each other, and housing, and food, water, shelter.
Yeah.
Those are the building blocks of what it takes to become self-sustaining.
Yeah. So, kind of a twofold question.
Sure.
One, how can, as I was sharing before we went live, that I've been very diligent in trying to partner, and not this silo system that even we were part of when I moved in here, but to reach out and be able to say, hey, Chris, how can Faith City Mission help? And then with that, why, in your opinion, why is a place like Faith City important to what you're doing and what Amarillo needs?
So I think that one of the bigger problems with nonprofits and service providers in Amarillo is they hoard resources.
Yeah.
And I don't mean money.
Right.
I mean information.
Yeah.
So, and folks don't want to, they're very proprietary over their secrets that they think are secrets.
Right.
I'm an open source, right? If I know something, I want to share that. Like I call the project that we're doing technology. I want our technology to be an open source. I want to share that with everybody. If I have a best practice, if I know how to get an identifying document in some secret, stealthy way, I want to share that resource with you.
Yeah.
And because there are things that I know how to do because I've been doing them for 10 years that would take you a week to do that I can do in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And there are things that you know that I don't know.
Yeah.
And sharing those backdoor communications where I can shoot you a text instead of, where we all have open lines of communication and we're not competing against one another. We should be sharing information. We should be sharing resources. Like I said, I'm not talking about money. I'm not after the money that you are getting. There's plenty of money to go around, believe it or not.
There's plenty.
So I'm after the best practices.
Yeah.
I'm after the information. I'm after how do we do better for people, because veterans are just people, right? They may have different routes to getting different benefits, and they may be eligible for different things, but they're all needing identifying documents. They're all needing social security cards. They're all needing, they all need to apply for SNAP benefits. They all need, we're all doing the same things.
Yeah.
We're just doing them for different demographics of people.
Yeah.
So, I'm more than willing to share any bit of information or resource that I have. And I think that talking other service providers into being freer with information is a struggle.
Yeah. Well, it's been my experience that, you're right. Well, I know something and I'm going to hold on to it over here because for some reason we felt like, well, if I give that information out, then I'm less important. And really, at the end of the day, if I have something that I'm doing and I'm doing it well, and you and I are having a conversation, I'm saying, hey, Chris, you might consider this. It may not work for you, but it just might. It doesn't take away from what I'm doing, but it does give one more avenue outside of my four walls that you can apply somewhere else. Somebody that I may not ever get to sit in front of, and vice versa. There may be somebody come in here that you may not have a connection with them, but you're doing something that I can look at and say, this will benefit this part of what we do.
Absolutely.
So let's sit down and let's share that. I'm wholeheartedly for that. I think that, I've been watching that, your location out there on the boulevard. I drive out there pretty frequently, and I've been watching what you guys are doing. That's exciting because for me, one of the things long term I'd like to do here is for our program students, they come out of a homeless situation, they come into the drug recovery program, and we have aftercare, but sometimes between aftercare and their own
Independent
housing,
living,
there has to be something in between.
Absolutely.
And so I would love to be able to do, some sort of, transitional housing. You still have access to the resources. You still have access to the case management. You still have access to the safety
it's a
net.
lighter touch.
Yeah.
It's a lighter touch,
And-
for sure.
But of course, it takes a place to do it, and the people. That's where I would go to you and say, hey, what you're doing, I think would fit kind of where we're doing. How did you do it? How did you get from here to there? And then we just come back and we tweak it to fit what we do. And I love the idea of it's just conversational. That's all this is. It's conversation.
It is.
For me to learn as the director of this place, to learn about your ministry, but also for you as the director of yours to learn about what we do and be able to say, hey, you know what? I don't have a bed, but let me call Robert and see if he's got a place temporarily. If I can at least get you in a temporary setting until I have a permanent setting for you.
Oh, I just heard that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so-
because you have 100 conversations a day with other service providers. I have 100 conversations a day with another 100 service providers.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I have a veteran that comes in and he doesn't have a drug addiction. He's in a homeless situation. He doesn't know where to go next. He's not from Amarillo. Doesn't know where the VA is. Then I pick the phone up and call you and say, hey, we need some help. Help us get. He needs health care. He needs to get his benefits back with the VA. Can you help us get him with the right people?
And the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the big things we're doing before our campus opens is that we're providing community referrals, right? Because we know everybody. We
Yeah.
know the entire veteran community. They know us on a first name basis, on a texting, on a cell phone basis, and we have those connections. And I can't tell you how valuable those are. I had a veteran in my office today who's been on the streets of Amarillo for 6 years. And a guy brought him in, and he doesn't want to stay at a shelter, but he's eligible for benefits. So, he is one of these guys who goes and stays in a motel, but his money runs out in the middle of the month.
Yeah.
Because he's a low-income veteran. He makes like $1,500 a month from Social Security and VA disability, but $1,500 in a motel doesn't go as far as an $800 rental agreement
Yeah.
goes. So, and he doesn't know about the, subsidized housing system. So we're like, we'll get these conversations started for you in the morning.
Yeah.
You'll be living a better life tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
It's outstanding.
it's just, they don't know what they don't know. And you don't know what you don't know, and I don't know what I don't
Yeah.
know. But you know things that I don't know. And
Yeah.
I know things that you don't
That's
know.
right.
And we should be sharing that information. I think it's super important. Collaboration. Collaboration and communication is the most important thing, I think, between services.
Yeah.
So, because
Outstanding.
we're not competing for the same money.
No.
We're not competing with the same, donors or philanthropic organizations, or we're not competition for one another.
No.
We're all running in different races.
Yeah. I think if we realize that, I think if we get outside of worrying about, the dollars and cents of it, we all have to have the money to operate what we're doing. But I think if we get focused on, how can we help the community that we've been entrusted with, the homeless community, the money will come in as we need it. We don't worry about those things. We worry about how can I partner with you? How can you partner with me to make a living situation better for another human, because at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Absolutely. And that's what the community wants too.
Yeah.
So, Amarillo, the Panhandle is a very generous and giving community.
Yeah, absolutely.
When they know that you're treating their money and their donations and their people
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
When you're treating people well and you have their best interest in mind, and you're not building big fountains in your offices,
Right.
and you
Yeah.
don't have, marble floors and all this, they want you to be responsible with their, with their tithe,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, they've earned their hard-earned treasure.
Yeah.
And people can be tight with their treasure,
Yeah.
but for a good cause, they get very generous.
Oh yeah, yeah. And as long as you honor that, you honor them, and you let them know, hey, we're going to take care of what you've sown, and make sure it goes for what you've sown it for.
Sure.
I think that's vitally important as well. And so, well, man, I'm excited to link up with you more. But man, I thank you for taking our invitation and coming out.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for the conversation.
If there's just one thing you can leave tonight, that you've got a platform with how many ever people are tuning in, and they're going to see this over the next number of days, what's the one message that you'd like to relay to them, and just say, hey, is it a misconception about veteran homelessness? Is it a misconception about homelessness across the board, or it is, hey, there is still hope to be had? What's the one thing you'd like to tell the people?
Sure. I do think there's hope to be had, right? I think that the homeless are not invisible.
No.
And you have to remember that folks that are unhoused, folks that are living in their cars, they're humans as well. They may be struggling with a number of things, or they may not be struggling with anything except homelessness.
Right.
Right? And I can tell you that, in our economy, there are many, many people that are a paycheck or two away
Yes.
from living in a vehicle.
Yes.
There's nothing, and folks, there's a lot of shame associated with being homeless, and folks are not often willing to ask their family members for this help because they're embarrassed about it. They don't want them to know. And they don't, so I think that, I think just be kind to folks. I don't necessarily support, paying panhandling, and stuff like that, but there are organizations in town that you can support that are prepared to support the needs of the veteran community.
Yeah,
I say
100%.
support your local nonprofits, because they're the experts. They're the boots on the ground. They're the ones who are in the trenches every day dealing with the homeless community, and they know what they're doing. They know how to get people to services. So I say, be generous, and don't be as judgmental of our homeless community and say, if you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Right.
Some of these folks, man, they don't have feet
Yeah.
to put boots on.
Yeah.
So I think that, let's not let our homeless population and neighbors be invisible.
Amen.
Let's, get them to the services they need, but also be careful, right? That we as service providers and we as a community are careful and get to the experts to ask them for help, because
Right.
they can deal with the community of homeless neighbors safely, and they have training. Don't put a homeless person in your car
Yeah.
and drive them somewhere, right? Go see a homeless service provider and tell them where this person is. Make that phone call
Yeah.
and say, I know a homeless veteran who's under the overpass. Call me. I'm willing to put my phone number out there,
Yeah.
right? Call me. We're homelessheroesofamarillo.org. Go to our website. We're active on Facebook. Get in contact with me. Get in contact with the VA. They'll, veteran service providers. Everybody in town knows how to get in touch with us. So, just let's get our veterans to the services that they need.
Amen. All right. Man, thank you.
Hey, my pleasure.
Hey,
thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Israel, Homeless Heroes. Man, thank you for what you're doing. Man, we bless you, and I look forward to more conversations with more partnership. And we'll get out there and check out your project.
Sweet.
And see that. And so, man, thank you.
Hey, my pleasure.
Again.
Call
Awesome.
anytime.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, man.
Hey, thank you.
I think I have a card.
What we do in life echoes in eternity. For more than 70 years now, Faith City Mission has stood as a place of hope and renewal, dedicated to serving those in need by providing food, clothing, shelter, and the love of Christ. From our humble beginnings until today, we continue to faithfully steward the resources entrusted to us, making a meaningful impact in our community and beyond for His glory. It all started in 1951 with Dick and Bea Hogan. At the core, the mission has never changed. Today, more than 50 men and women are thriving through our discipleship programs. 24-year-old Nicoya is 6 months in, and the most important part of her life is her relationship with Christ.
I'm in the Esther's House program, and there's 3 phases of it. There's foundations, rebuilders, and transition.
Nicoya and other women in the program lead a structured life, and it's all part of the plan.
And that's top priority here, to make you feel safe, protected, and full so that you can be in the sound mind so that you can get that third part, the Christ. If you're worried about your basic necessities not being met, then it's harder for you to really focus on Christ, which really matters.
As part of her discipleship, Nicoya, like the other students at Faith City Mission, spends several hours each week completing chores.
So we go out to Mission Ranch and we clean on Mondays. And at first I was like, I don't want to do that. But the more that I do it, it feels amazing to give back the way that I do it. I'm doing it unto Christ, not unto myself.
And her smile is a reflection of the light that's filled her life, far from the darkness that once enveloped her.
I tried to find comfort in alcohol, and it's a false comfort. I became an alcoholic, and I ran my life into the ground. I couldn't do it on my own anymore. So I came here.
And it's here where in 2024, more than 73,000 meals were served. 2,400 pieces of clothing were dispersed. And it's here where we offered more than 7,000 warm showers and safe nights to all those men, women, and children that stayed at the shelter. But our mission goes beyond meeting physical needs. It's about life-changing spiritual transformation. Last year, over 120 individuals like Rodney committed their lives to Christ.
I'm not gonna say from the moment I got there, but early on, my heart just started changing. And I think they took me to church. The Lord did the rest.
Today, Rodney works at Noble Cabinets, using his hands to create something he never once imagined possible. The California native is far removed from his previous life.
I never worked in my life. I joined the gang at 11 years old. I pretty much ran with the gang and sold drugs my whole adult life. Never even thought I wanted a job. Pretty much misinformed about society. Accountability was foreign to me.
Rodney is the perfect example of how God changes lives and the power of redemption.
At 16 years old, I was certified as an adult. And I was sentenced to 40 years in TDC. I ended up spending 23 years. I got out of prison at 39. I did what I always did. I immediately started selling drugs. I went back to prison. When I got out of there, they actually drove me to downtown Amarillo and just dropped me off at the bus stop. I had about $1,500 in my pocket, and I just assumed that I would, sell drugs and get in touch with old friends again.
That pattern changed when a friend led Rodney to Faith City Mission, and the rest is history.
I'm not gonna say that
Ready? Let me know. All right. Well, hey, we're back. Thank you for hanging in with us. I am with Lacey Epperson. I would go out on a limb and say that she is a homeless advocate, a homeless assistant, helping really out in the trenches. One of the things that is exciting with this conversation is Lacey is just an everyday, regular gal out here making a difference.
Thank you.
And so let me jump out here with this. What is just from your experience, because I do know briefly just from kind of seeing you around. I don't really know you, but I've seen you around. I've seen you on Facebook. I know that you do a Bible study at the Resource Center.
Yes.
But I also know that you yourself have been homeless.
Yes.
And so will you share with us your experiences in homelessness, but also the importance of the resources of a Faith City Mission, Guy and Sanders, some different places that maybe you didn't stay the night, but maybe you ate a meal or you got a shower. Can you share that with us, what that looked like for you and why these places are important?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm Lacey, and I am just shy of not being homeless right now. I live in a 20-foot camper, which is more than most.
Yeah.
But the fundamental aspect, I think, of just anything with being homeless, I like to use the word unhoused.
Yeah.
Because the difference is 4 walls, essentially, right? But the fundamental piece that I think has to be implemented is Jesus. Jesus, 100%, because if you're in the trenches and you're homeless, it is by faith that you can keep going and keep surviving and keep having hope. And that has to be the foundational piece of whether it's the shelter, whether it's the individual experiencing homelessness. But so that's what kept me alive while being homeless, and that's why I continue to go out here. But as far as the resources and stuff that, like when you're homeless, it's hard to keep your belongings. It's hard to keep the things that we need that are everyday essentials, such as an identification document, clean clothes, taking a shower if you were going to try to get a job or something like that. These are crucial pieces that you need to be able to try to get back into society. And it's really hard to keep and manage and maintain while you're homeless. But so we need, if you're homeless, you need those resources to be able to help you connect those dots. Because with homelessness, you also get, there's a lot of mental health issues that you have. There's substance abuse issues. It's just part of being in the streets. The streets aren't easy. It's not a place for human beings are not designed to live on a sidewalk.
Right.
And so just what the elements also bring, the weather factor and stuff, it's really toxic to your mind. And so it's absolutely imperative that there are resources available for folks that are needing help. Some folks are more high functioning. Some folks need a little bit extra care, and some folks, they just need love. Maybe they're not going to come out of the place that they're in, but they just need somebody to be there to just care for them and give them their. And Jesus even said that chaos of that, because it's just what it is. There's people that are in survival mode. You have things that go on in the world. You just have more of a bird's eye view to that because you don't have that protection around you to, kind of shelter you from that.
Yeah.
So that adds on to the mental health piece. But I think that right now, systemically, that there is a shortage.
Statistically, what you see on paper is that, homelessness is the way that it'll be communicated is more of a male epidemic, but that's not the case, and we can help improve and maybe get them to the resources. So as a woman, can you share, because I'm not going to understand as a man, but as a woman, can you share what does that look like as a woman on the streets in survival mode? Because what precautions do you take, and then is that what drives you to help these other women?
Yeah. So yes, as a woman, it's being homeless. It's a very predatory environment. Absolutely been solicited for things that there was a time in my life. It was an everyday reoccurrence. I don't judge people's lifestyle. I'm called not to do that.
Yeah.
but for me in my survival mode in the streets, we all choose a vice that we'll do.
Yeah.
But it's a very serious situation. I was always, I guess you could say, vulnerable to that because I am a woman, and I was single, and so for that survival mode, what I would do is normally I would try to have like a buddy system, right? And also have on the armor of God, like
Yeah.
literally. That saved me more times than I can even say. God saved me more times than I can even say. God is real, He's powerful, and He is alive, you know?
Yeah.
And so if you're walking in that, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to face trials and tribulations. But what I survived and what might have, so how can I say this? So what trauma affected me might affect somebody else in a different way. You know, hey, let me help you. But also I think in a systemic way that it always has to be the patient or a victim of sexual human trafficking, you know, something like that. So yeah.
One of the things that I see that I would love to see is more of, you know, maybe some transitional housing for women. Just maybe you don't have a drug addiction. Maybe you're not coming out of that. Maybe you just paroled out of prison and they paroled you to Amarillo, Texas because you didn't want to go back where you came from, but you don't have anybody here. And then you leave the halfway house, next thing you know, you're on the street and there's not another resource. And I think it's vitally important that we start seeing those things happen, especially for women. A very soft place in my heart for women, especially single women. One, of course, I have a wife and 2 daughters, but I was raised basically my entire life by a single mother, and for the first part of my life, she had an addiction. And, you know, yes, she functioned, and there were days that we were, you know, close to homelessness. There were some time, you know, before it was the cool thing to do to live in a school bus. You know, we lived in a school bus, no water, no electricity. But, you know, to see that as I got older, you know, I'm 50 now, and to see as I got older, it was alarming to me to see that there were not a lot of resources for women. You know, that was part of why we did what we did here. I was like, man, that's at least one step in the right direction for us. Stays within what we do. But, you know, I guess really too what I'd like to know from you is, you know, as you're talking on here live across the you know, the internet, you know, what is it, because we don't know who's listening in. There might be somebody that's listening and say, hey, I've got an idea, but I'm not really sure. What is the one thing that you could tell them, say, hey, you know, as a woman who's been in homelessness, you know, that a little bit by watching from a distance, you know, I don't know your full story, but as a woman that can say, hey, here's the reality of life on the streets for a woman, and maybe somebody tuning in and saying, hey, that's something I could partner with. You know, what would you want them to know?
The reality for is it's again, I think that it comes down to that predatorial thing. Human trafficking is real.
Yes.
And it's very prevalent, and it's right in front of our face. It's not just put in a box of, oh, it's the cartels and all this. No, it could be just a girl walking down the street. You know what I mean? Some random Joe Schmo pulls up and, hey, girl, you know, you want this, yada, yada, yada. So I think for a woman that it's exhausting. It's insane how much that is actually a thing that happens in the streets, that it's taboo, right? We don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, it's
But
uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable, but it's very real. And so for women in the streets, I think that it would be great for women to first be empowered, because I'm not really a feminist. Again, I'm a Christian, right? I love all people, but for women to know that they don't have to do that, and
Yes.
to have that, I guess, that identity, right? To know that you are worth more than just a thing, right? And then also the substance abuse, because I don't know what they're putting in these drugs anymore,
Right.
but it is wreaking havoc like none other. Anyway, so you add the sexual abuse / trauma, the drug addiction, all that stuff. It's really hard for a woman to pull out of that. And because we're supposed to be led by men, so I think as a woman too, I think that there needs to be more God-fearing men step up into their roles, to not look at women and belittle them like they're an object,
Right.
but to truly empower them as the head of Christ, and not in a, it doesn't even have to be in a marriage fashion, right? Like the world is full of women that are crying out for men to step up in their God-fearing roles, to be the men that God called them to be, right? And I think that that would universally change so much.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. You know, Christ calls men to love their wives the way that Christ loved the church, to lay his life down for her. And that means less of me, more of him,
More of him.
to benefit you.
Yes.
And then what that does is it benefits me as a husband, as a father, as a leader. It benefits me because it's less of me. And I really think that in society at large, not to get, you know, out on a soapbox, but I do believe that there is a spiritual agenda to remove men.
Absolutely.
Because if God's divine design was that men were to be the head, you remove the head, you'll kill the body.
Yes.
You remove the husband and the father, you'll kill the wife and the children.
Yes.
Almost instantaneously. And so there is a call for men to become men again.
Yes.
To take that role, not heavy-handed, not
No.
abusive, but to say, hey, come along.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. And I really think that if we had more active fathers in the home,
Yes.
that would say, hey, you know, I don't know how to be a dad. I was very upfront when my girls were little. I told my wife from the get-go, I have no idea how to be a dad. But because of how I was raised, I knew how not to be a dad. My dad was not been taught that I have a value and my identity is in Christ. My identity is not in what I can provide as an object, and I'm also not defined by what I've done in the past. I'm defined by the finished work of the cross. And I think if men would take that role seriously, I really think you would see a change in the life specifically of women. I really do. I really believe that wholeheartedly. And so, you know, to see that gap
Amen.
that says that's one more little girl that's off the streets.
Yes.
That's one more young man who's off the streets, that maybe even if it's just for a little bit of time, we get to show them something differently. And really, Lacey, just from my vantage point through social media, I hear your name a lot. I see you on different people's posts. That's what you're doing. You're truly being the hands and feet of Jesus, reaching people maybe that we're not going to be able to reach, but you're reaching them. And you're giving them, even if in the moment, you're giving them hope. So I want to encourage you, one, not only does your father see you, but the other resources in the city see you. We see that you're really on your boots on the ground, doing the thing. You're partnering with what we're doing. You may not be in the four walls of Faith City, but you're doing what we do and you're helping those that we help. And so I want you to know that you've been seen, okay? But I also want you to know that you're doing a good work. And I have a firm belief in my life that we minister, our greatest level of ministry comes out of our greatest need. And so for you, who just opened our conversation with, I'm just barely out of homelessness, I'm in a 20-foot camper, that's huge. That's an example to somebody else. But prior to that, when you were in a homeless situation, you were ministering out of your greatest need. You needed protection, you needed shelter, you needed hope, you needed a place to lay your head that was safe, that you were not going to be victimized, and you were doing that for other people when you needed it yourself. So I commend you for that. I commend you for staying the course. And I believe because of that, that's why you are now in a 20-foot trailer.
Thank you.
You're one step farther from where you were, and you get to go back in and say, hey, if I can do it, you can do it.
Yes.
And so I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you because I know that what we do is sometimes a thankless job. I know that sometimes the community doesn't always see that what we're doing is a good work. You know, it's, well, just let them do that down there and keep it over there. Don't let it get over here.
Yeah.
You know, but I just want you to know that what you're doing is vital
Thank you.
to saving the lives of men and women on the street. And then when you walk through the doors here to bring somebody and say, hey, can you help? That's huge. And so I want to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that a place like Faith City Mission is important?
Because without Faith City Mission, where would people go? You guys have an open door policy, open heart, right? Give people the basic needs that they need: food, shelter, clothing, right? And that is vital for people to just get rest. Rest.
Yeah.
Rest is something that we all take for granted.
Yeah.
So it's essential for people to function, for them to try to have that hope, right? Because when you don't have rest, your mind doesn't work
Right.
correctly.
Yeah.
And then to see that they are seen, right? That they are noticed. and
100%.
Yep.
Lacey, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Lacey Epperson, ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you.
homeless advocate,
Thank you.
homeless assistant, evangelist, preacher of the gospel. It's been an honor. Hey,
Thank you.
thank you. If you need something, you let us know.
Thank you.
ma'am.
God bless you guys. Thank you.
Can I hug your neck?
Yes.
Come on.
Hey, I look forward to coming and visiting with you today.
Thank you.
Hello again. I'm with Mark Peden and Gary Jones. These guys are both recent graduates of our Hope for Men program. Gary is a Amarillo boy, raised here. Man was on top of the world at one time and had a relapse and a setback and ended up back here with us. And then Mark came to us via of Faith Mission in Wichita Falls. They have a program there, and they saw fit to send him up to us. And so, man, I welcome you guys, and I thank you for coming out. I know
Appreciate
Mark, it's a little late for Mark. One, he's old, and two, he's got to get up. He's got to be at work at 4:45 in the morning, and so we're thankful for him taking time to come and sit with us. And so, guys, and one or both of you can answer this. Pardon me. What is homelessness? What role has homelessness played, if at all, in your personal journey or in the journey of somebody that you've known up close and personal to see it firsthand?
Well, I never really was. I mean, I was homeless at this last.
Here,
but,
let her give him that microphone.
But during my drug addiction and doing what I did, I really didn't have a home. I had a place I could go to when I needed to crash, but I really didn't have a home. But this last time, I didn't even have a home or nothing to come to, and I was in the hospital with a broken hip, and things just looked hopeless and desperate. And so I called you and called Bill Shaw, and Bill said, I mean, I was told that y'all really didn't have an opening, but God, he opened the door for me. So
He did.
So that was.
So I want to piggyback on Gary before he goes any farther. You know, we've been talking about the importance of partnering with other nonprofits and entities and individuals in the city. Tony Rodriguez, he's with Final Hope Ministries. He was the one that actually reached out to me first and then wanted to talk to Bill. And he said, man, I've got this guy. He goes, I promise you, if you'll give him a chance, he just needs an opportunity. And so Bill and I talked, and Bill said, man, I know Gary Jones. And so we brought him in. And Gary he came in, he was on a walker.
Yes.
And he was not, let me tell you, not just that broken hip. This brother was literally a shell of a man when he got here. And we had the opportunity to watch him really transform before our eyes. But the one thing, and Bill and I talked about this a lot, was I never, even when he first came in, he came straight from the hospital. He can't walk. He's on a walker. You know, he's in bad shape. But I never saw Gary without, number one, a kind word to say to somebody and a smile on his face. and I used to think to myself, I don't have one thing to complain about. And here I am mumbling and grumbling, and this guy has every reason to be sour and to be put out, and he wasn't. And I've always admired that about you from day one when you came in. And so tell me, and we'll get to Mark here in a minute, tell me about, you know, when you came into Faith City this time, you know, what was that transition like, coming from homelessness to the hospital to Faith City Mission?
Okay, when I first got here, I knew that God was going to do a work in me because I'd already been there before.
Yeah.
Like I had 8 years clean, and I was teaching a life recovery at my church, and was one of the leaders in the church, and then I fell back off. So I knew, I think I had a better chance than a lot of people do because I knew what God could do and what he was going to do, and he did everything that I expected him to do, and he's done even more.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What is one of the things in your time during the program, before you graduated, what is the one thing that, you know, you can look at Faith City through the resources, the classes, the counseling, the case management, and you can say, man, that's the one thing, I remember that being the moment that clicked and it changed my life?
Okay, my moment was at our retreat. When we went to the retreat, it was up at the cabin.
Yeah.
And we got there, and some of us had a double bunk, and I refused the double bunk, so I slept on the couch. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, God woke me up, and he said, I might get a little emotional, but he said, "Come down here and talk to me." And I was going, "No, I don't. I got to get some sleep." But I went ahead and went down there and talked. And what was good is when we had our men's group at our church, we rented that same cabin and went there. And God, he just God, I get chills. He told me, he goes, "Look, you had it all the last time you was here." He goes, and right now, he goes, "You're coming back." He goes, "And you're gonna have everything you need." And I mean, it was the Holy Spirit just filled me that day. And I mean, when Cody was the first one to come in, and I told him about that moment, you know. So it was. I told him, I said, "You know, if this didn't touch anybody else, it touched me and brought me back. Because from that time on, none of this stuff fazed me. Because I was, you know, I had a few hard times. I even had some times that I almost left. But after that, I was going, why would I leave this place when it's brought me back to God and brought myself back to me, and you know, and brought my family back. I mean, everything is back. And I had destroyed everything.
So share with us, share with us some of the things that are restored. Share with us what you're doing now. With your job, transportation. You share some of that and the steps that you were able to do while you were here to get back on track and get back on your feet.
While I was here, I went ahead and filed for Social Security because I was old enough to do that. So I filed for Social Security and I saved my money. And I told everybody when I was getting close to transition, I said, I'm gonna get a truck, I'm gonna get some insurance, and I'm gonna have a job that day. And everybody, you know how they think. Right. And I did exactly that.
Yeah.
And I remember when I come back, I'd bought in a Ford, and you know, you made the remark, you said, you know, he goes, I'm a pretty firm believer that Jesus owned a Ford because he walked everywhere he went.
That's right. That's right.
But, you know, and now I'm back in the church again. I'm going to the same group that I went to that kept me grounded on Monday nights. I've even got Mark going now.
Good.
And so it's to help with the prep program. I don't know if you know about the prep program at Randall County, but I'm involved with them people and all that, and you know, giving back to the people what God has given me, and just, you know, just letting them know that there is a way. And I think with me having that 8 years clean and falling back off, it's harder to come back the second time than it is the first time. And so I'm able to touch even more people than what I was before.
Come on.
And, you know, and I have a lot of people that look up to me. You know, I let a lot of people down when I went out there, because I'd helped a lot of people get, you know, out of the addiction. And then I turned right back up in there, and where my deal come, I got prideful. And I got tired of trying to help people all the time, and I couldn't understand why somebody, you know, I'd see people go back out there, and I'd say, how can y'all do that? And I found myself right back in that same situation.
Yeah.
So, you know, my pride got me.
Yeah. Mark, let me ask you. You know, we joke about you, you know, coming here in the circumstances of how you ended up at Faith City after being in Wichita Falls. When Mark got here, Mark didn't necessarily like authority or rules, and so that was part of why he got sent to us. He had to dust up with some leadership at the other program, and so since then, you know, and I like to give Mark a hard time about that, but you know, Mark, you had a career. You were a truck driver. You were, dare I say, a functioning addict. You were hauling cattle. You were doing the thing every single day, but somewhere along the way, something shifted in you, and you said, "I can't do this anymore."
Yeah.
And so, share with us what that was, and then share with us why this place is important to you.
Well, I'll never forget it. I was at church, and my lips were blue, and a sister of mine, Shannon Aldridge, her and her husband carried me to Wichita Falls to the hospital, and my blood pressure was way out of the roof. I mean, it was like 200 over 151, and it was bad. And I'll never forget, the woman in the emergency room told me, "You want to live or die?" And of course, after I got out of the hospital, I didn't really have a place to go because I couldn't go get back in the truck. I wasn't in no shape. And a good friend of mine, Bobby Durham, got me talked to Bob Johnson at Faith City, or I mean Faith Mission at Wichita, and they got me in the program, and the program, you know, I was down there for 8 months before I came up here, but I was still broken. I just lost my dad. You know, got to reconnect my life with my dad before he passed, and then one of the things that he told me that it made him happy is that I was in this program, and so after my little deal at Wichita Falls, I got to come up here and I got a pretty good greeting, you know. Miss Shannon told me to choose my words wisely, and I tell you, you know, from my first week here till now is totally different. I got brothers, I got a family. If I need anything, I can ask anybody. And after graduating the program, we got a bunch of graduates still around and stuff, and we made Thursday night a night of going out and eating together. And when it first started, it was me, Gary Jones, and Ron Hamby. And it went from 3 to, I don't know, 8 of us to 13 of us. And it's just, you know, it's awesome to get to have that fellowship, because what it does for me is let me know I'm not alone. I got somebody that's got my back at all times, and you can't beat that with anybody. I mean, you're never alone.
Yeah. So what's the one lesson you learned here, Mark, that was an eye opener for you? I already asked Gary, but what's the one thing in your time at Faith City Mission, the lesson you learned that you can look at that moment and you can say, that's the moment that everything changed for me for the better?
Mercy, that would be probably when I got put in the kitchen, and you know, I had patience issues, and
To say the least.
I got put in under Jimmy Cook, and I tell you what, I love that boy to death, but he will make you work on yourself.
Say that again.
Amen. So I'll share this with you. Jimmy, when he was in the program here, he and I crossed up, and we got a little loud with one another, and I felt bad about it. And later on in the day, I was in the dining room, and Gary comes to me, and I apologized to them men. I told him, I said, hey, I'm sorry that, you know, me and Jimmy, we got heated with one another the way we did. It's not right. And everybody started clearing out. And Gary walks up to me, he goes, listen, Pastor, he said, we live with him. He probably had it coming. So, we love Jimmy, but he was early on, he was a handful when he got here.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
Yeah. And so, you know, I remember you being in the kitchen and learning. It wasn't just necessarily learning the patience, but coming out of the cab of a truck where you worked by yourself all the time.
Yeah.
To learn how to work with others. I saw you learn and develop that skill, but also how to learn to communicate clearly without anger. You know, hey, I'm frustrated, or I'm hurting, or I'm disappointed, or, you know, I saw you develop that in the food service department here. And then I do remember you telling me pretty frequently that you love to be in there because you love to watch us as we served our homeless population, our homeless guests, when they came in. You had that bird's eye view from the serving line as you're making plates, and we were taking them out, and then you got to see the guests sitting down, and you always said, I love to see that, which then in turn really kind of motivated you to do some different things in the kitchen. because you brought some home recipes and you made up some recipes because you wanted to bless our homeless population.
Yes.
Or something maybe they didn't always get, or a little treat. And you know, I've never seen anybody more of an advocate to make sure that our homeless guests got a treat, a sweet treat or something. You were adamant about a cookie or a cupcake or a piece of cake or something to make sure, you know, and it really, it blessed me to see that, because I was like, you know what, all of us, we like a little treat every now and then, and you saw the need for that, and I've always appreciated that about you. And so now share with us, you know, where are you at now? What are you doing? You're working, you know, you've bought a car.
Yes, sir.
And not just any car, you bought a nice car, and you bought a General Motors product, huh? You didn't do what Gary did.
Yes, sir.
You bought that old GM.
I didn't want to get stranded.
He didn't want to get stranded. Gary wanted to walk with Jesus. So, but tell us about that, Mark. What I really want to hear, and I want to hear you share, is when you stood at my pickup and told me you'd bought that other car.
Yes, sir.
And you told me, Pastor, I could call my mama today and she'd help me buy a car.
She would.
But I need to do it differently. So share that with us.
Well, I believe I said that I could probably ask her the money, but she's wanting to see the change in me.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, I guess the week before my graduation, maybe it's 2 weeks. Anyway, I go to AT&T, and I sat in the AT&T store for a couple hours waiting on her. They're trying to change our phone lines over, and the woman was sitting there. And I said, ma'am, I said, surely it'll be done shortly. But anyway, after I got up and walked out of there, my mom found out that I've gained patience, you know. And I know that she wasn't having very good patience sitting there at the AT&T store. But,
Right.
you know, that's one thing that I know that I've really gained. And I had the biggest part of the buddy put down. And, of course, you told me to go to XL Autos.
Yeah.
And Gary Jones carried me. I said, well, I think Pastor told me to go out there. Anyway, so I got to go meet Mr. Johnny Daniels, greatest guy.
Yeah.
He thinks really highly of me.
Yeah, I love Johnny.
The first place I've ever put on a reference, a big X for you and a small X for Gary Jones.
Right. And he knew who we were.
Yeah, he knew who y'all were.
Yeah.
And, you know, my mom helped me out a little bit, and I appreciate her to death for that. 8 months ago, 12 months ago, she wouldn't have done it. A year and a half ago, she wouldn't have, because she was at that cutoff point.
The good thing about this time is she offered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't have to ask.
Yeah, and that right there tells me how far I came.
Yeah.
This program, you put in it what you put in it, you get out of it.
Right.
The amazing staff. One of the hardest classes that I've had to do here is Genesis.
Yeah.
That's a hard book to complete, but if you complete it with honesty, you can't beat what you get out of it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, this place has been a blessing for me. That's all.
Well, I appreciate both of you men. I'm proud of you. It's been an honor for us as a staff to watch you two grow, not just through the program, but to grow as men and then to grow together. You know, when Mark came here, Mark literally had no boundaries. Your boundaries didn't matter, and he didn't exist. And one of the things that I've watched, and we do teach several different boundaries classes here, he has some very tight boundaries for himself now. And not just for him, but for those that have access to him. And if their intent is not to help him or for him to be able to help them, he has to keep a distance. And that's for his own sanity and his sobriety and his own success as well, but also for theirs. And I'm really proud of you men for what you're doing. I love when you guys come back in the building. Both of you, I can't help but when I see the two of you, I absolutely, it doesn't matter what my day has looked like, I absolutely cannot help but smile when I see the two of you. you bring a level of joy to me personally, but also to our staff. You are, I say all the time that our success is based on the success of those that we help. Um, if we help them well and they're succeeding, we're successful. And these two guys, I look at them and they are great success stories of why it is important that we exist, that we do what we do, and we partner with the other people in the city that we partner with, so that we can see men and women transform their lives. And so, man, I'm so proud of you guys and what you're doing. I love seeing the posts of all you guys getting together for dinner on Thursdays. They were actually scheduled earlier, but they normally go at 6:30 or 7 to go eat with the group. And I told them, no, you've got to go do that. That's important. Go do community and then come back. We'll make a spot. And so I'm so proud of you guys for taking the initiative to build a community of men that you can support each other. That is fantastic. And I can't brag on you enough, and I can't tell you how proud of you I am. But man, thank you for coming out. I know that you got to get up early, but man, thank you guys so much for just your heart for Faith City, but also for the people we serve. Thank you. You guys have a true servant's heart, and I admire that, and I honor you guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you too.
Thank you,
Sir.
Gary.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
All right, that's it. Well, we're back. You have heard his name multiple times today, from students, from board members. Mr. Rodney Hicks is with us today. I'll give you just a quick back story. I don't need to tell his story, but we here at Faith City, we started with our recovery program. We partnered with the Legion Project. We partnered with Amarillo Parole. And we started a program that we called the Reentry Program. And what it is, it's a program for men that have been in prison, incarcerated, for when they're ready to parole or they need a place, they can parole to Faith City. Now, Rodney had already paroled out, but where he had paroled out to was not going to be conducive to any type of success. And so his name was presented to us. And with that came some challenges. He was on a leg monitor. We had never dealt with that here before. And so we started the process of getting everything in order. And so we did that. We brought Rodney into our 12-month program, A Hope for Men. Broken, pretty lost, very cynical, had lived his life according to a certain code all of his life. And but he came in here very guarded, but very willing to say, I'll try it with the hope that it'll work. And so Rodney did. He came in, he worked a solid program. It wasn't an easy program. It wasn't a perfect program, but he came in here and he worked really diligently. And we as a staff have had the great honor of watching him not just get sober, but become successful, and to change some thinking, some mindsets that already existed, and then to see him earlier today. John Fuller was here. Rodney is one of the men that not only went to work for John in the cabinet shop, but now is a crew leader for him. And man, Rodney, it is an honor for me. We've waited all day. We've been doing this since 2 o'clock, and we have waited all day. Rodney's here doing a little security for us, helping us with that. And man, we have waited all day to do this interview, and I'm excited to hear from you. Rodney is not just, I told him the other day, I said, I don't view you as an alumni anymore. I view you as a friend. And I view you as a partner in life and in ministry. We've got some history together now. And so, Rodney, I want you to share with us your path to Faith City Mission is a little different than a lot of the folks that come in here. Drugs were involved, but it wasn't necessarily the path of homelessness. And so if you would share with us briefly just your story on how did you get here? What was your life like and how did you get here? And then we'll discuss a little more.
Well, just the short version. I went to state prison at 17. I did 23 years in state prison. I got out. I don't really think I got out with the intention on ever going back or anything like that, but be that as it may, I went back. I went to federal prison this time, and I did 5 more years and got out. I was thinking about something earlier today when you were speaking to somebody. I remember when I was in federal prison, and there was a point where I was thinking like, man, it's too late to change now. I'm about to be 50 years old. I done did it this long, I might as well keep going, right? And what's funny is when you were talking, I thought about the guy who kind of tricked me here. He's back in prison now. But when I got out of the federal prison, like you say, I went to a place with a friend of mine who pretty much the only reason I was even kind of welcome there is because of my history as a drug dealer and a gang member and everything else. I believe that she had the hope that I was going to go back to that life, and that would be a a free ticket for her. That's what I believe. I don't know. But this friend, I called him one day for a ride. I had been out a couple weeks, was running out of money, but I needed a ride. And coincidentally, he had been up here a couple of days before talking to Bill Shaw and yourself or somebody about the reentry program or something. I don't know what it was. But he said, I'll give you a ride, but only if you go up here and talk to these people first. I would have agreed to anything. I needed a ride, so I'm like, okay. And I don't know, I got here and I can't point to one thing that just made me say try it, but I think the thing that resonates the most is that I wanted to be able to say to myself and to anybody, my excuse was gonna be I tried. You know, I didn't have no intention on succeeding or anything like that. I just wanted to be able to say, well, I tried, it didn't work, so, you know. And so I came, and as God works, like a lot of times he just needs to get you in the building and things just start happening, like, and here I am. They still happen today. Because I've listened to you talk all day, and I don't think I've heard this yet, but I'm gonna say it, just being honest with you. This is by far my hardest walk in life. It's not even close. I spend every day denying what I want to do. Right? And I think we sometimes paint a false picture into the walk with the Lord or the walk with Jesus is all rainbows and butterflies and all that, and it's not. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard every day. So, but I'm so proud of myself, like being here. I'm so proud of myself.
So, when you were in the program, you know, we had a lot of conversations, and there was just some mindsets that you had, and part of it was adopted at an early age because of the culture that you were living in, but then some of it was adopted through your time of incarceration, and you know, you were pretty guarded and you were distant for a while, but share the moment, you know, and I love this story, but when Cody, you know, we're big on talking about the kingdom of God and the importance of being kingdom men and kingdom women, and what does that look like? And there's just certain verbiages you use when you're using that, and share that moment when you realized, one, man, they're talking about the Bible, but it was in such a manner that it was something you could understand because of where you had come from.
Right. So by far the biggest class I went through here was quiet time. And it's not necessarily a class, but it's a time early in the morning where we spend 30 minutes just, you know, discussing the Bible or certain things. And I wasn't necessarily paying attention in there. This was early on. But Cody, who was over the class, would kind of be in my peripheral. And people would speak about the Bible, and he would just kind of under his breath say, that's kingdom. Well, in the world that I've existed in, there's a part of that that's gang talk. So when he would say that, my ears would kind of perk up, and I would like look at him, and you know, he has the tattoos, and you could tell he's walked a few dark streets. And so it just sounded, it was enough to get me curious, to ask him, hey man, what do you mean when you always whisper his kingdom? And that was it. He directed me to Miles Monroe. Actually, he directed me to Miles Monroe at the same time, the very first Sunday I went to church. And just so happened, your topic that day, which most days it is, but this day was specifically kingdom. And so for someone who's been like in churches in my life, whether in prison or in the streets, I've been to churches, but never really got a grasp of anything. So when you get into that form of teaching the Bible, right? And you learn that it's not about dying and going to heaven. You know, it's about right here, right now. And you can literally experience that right here, right now. And I'm not gonna lie, I've caught glimpses of it, I've caught moments of it. It's still a battle with me 24/7. I have to change my mind at least 80 times a day.
Right.
But I've got enough of it to know that it's real. And I think that without that, I think the most fascinating thing about that is I never understood the Bible.
Yeah.
But as soon as I got that, the Bible made perfect sense. And I find myself today like telling people about scriptures that I can't even remember ever reading, or I don't even know where it came. Like, well, I know where it came from,
Yeah.
but I didn't write it down or study it. It just like flows sometimes. So I thank Cody a lot for that, but I think that it was a group effort, but more than anything, it was just sometimes this building just has a presence. So sometimes it's just getting you here. And there's someone here, they gave me a keychain a long time ago, and it said, "Be still."
Yeah.
And I've never been still my whole life. And I still have to remind myself of that daily. Because I think of all the past mistakes I've made, and they all were rushed, spur of the moment mistakes if I had just been still for that moment.
Yeah.
And that's what happens now. Like, I want to quit my job 10 times a day. I want to go to the casino 10 times a day. I want to do all these things that I once did, but I just be still. Yeah. And it passes. So, yeah, that's it.
So earlier today, we interviewed John Fuller at Noble Cabinets, and Rodney works there, and I love when you'd been there for a while, and I loved the genuineness that you carried into my office today. And you looked across at me and you held your hands out and you said, "Man, Pastor, my entire life I've destroyed everything I've touched, and now I have the opportunity to build something that's meaningful." Mm-hmm. Share with us what the partnership between Faith City Mission and Noble Cabinets has meant for you.
It's more than a job. Like, it's a grind. He's a hard boss. He's a good friend, a good mentor. It's more than a job. Like, we study men's topics together. We study the word together. We work together. He's very demanding. But in that, he keeps surprising me about me. Like, there's things that I don't believe that I can do, but he does, and he's like super gung-ho about it. And I'll look back in a month or two and be like, "Man, I remember when I thought I couldn't do this." You know, whatever it be. I've got a phone full of things that I've done in there that still amazes me that I've done it. Like, I'm painting and stuff now, doing whole homes, like high-end stuff that, like, I never even pulled out a tape measure in my life, much less built something and installed something and painted something and was able to point to it. And when I share it with people, even I can see the awe on their face, like, "You did that?" Like, "Yeah, bro," and it's hard to believe. But that partnership actually, and I don't know why, but the same person who gave me that keychain made me ask him to mentor me, because I just was too prideful and arrogant to go to him and humble myself and say, "Hey, man, you know, I would like for you to mentor me." But it started a process. As soon as I asked him, the next day he showed up with about 1,000-page book, say, "Here, read this."
Right.
And it's just went on and on and on. I've read more books in the last 2 years about life than I had in my whole life. So that partnership has been great. The job is very demanding, but very rewarding. But I think the point of all of that is just community and people. Because even without the job, I could leave the job right now. The people that I surround myself with, they're gonna always be there.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that I'm doing. And the accountability that comes with those people is what keeps me going.
Why do you, personally, why do you feel like Faith City Mission is important to Amarillo and surrounding areas?
I thought about that question a few times throughout the day as you was asking it, right? And I think what resonates with me the most is when I was chapel here, I was able to hear some stories. And I think the ones that make this so vital to me are, there's been some women that came through here that were running from bad situations. And it could have been terrible. And I was actually telling someone the other day about, I remember when I was MODing one day, it just so happened I had stepped out the front door for something, I don't even remember what it was, but there was a kid standing across the street. And I had been here a while, so I knew just about all the regular guests we get. And you could kind of tell the ones that are just coming through. But this kid was totally out of place, and he couldn't have been more than 12 or 13. And one of the guests that was over there knew me well enough to say, he thought I was actually a preacher. So he was like, hey, Chaplain, come here. And so I started walking across the street, but I'm watching the kid the whole way, and he's like, hey, man, this. So I asked the kid, like, what are you doing here? Why are you out here? And I think he kind of lied to me. I don't remember what his story was, but anyway, we brought him in the building and called the police. And he was actually running away from his mom because he wanted to be with his dad. But his mom and his dad was looking for him. And the lady who was like the regular beat cop at the time, she pulled up and we talked to her about the situation. She finally got a little bit of the truth out of him. His mom pulled up. A few minutes later, his dad pulled up. But here's the deal, that was at dinner time. So it was about to get dark. And it was about to get dark in an area around some people who, there was one guy over there I kind of trusted, but that story could have went a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've talked to some women who've come through here. A few we've talked into the program. A guy I've prayed for whose son had died that morning, who I watched graduate a couple months ago from the program. And it's just like little things like that, especially for the women and the children, like there's gotta be somewhere where you know, if I can just get to that front door. I come here for lunch most days and I make fun of her for it, but I'll listen to Miss Lacey or Miss Shannon or somebody just on the phone painstakingly explaining over and over to somebody, if you go here, they can do this. If you go here, they can do this. If you come in here, we'll do this. And I just think that there's not enough of that in the world sometimes.
Yeah. For those that don't know, we do have the emergency overnight shelter that houses women and children. But in our Esther's House program, we bring women in, but we also bring their children with them. And we have a children's ministry. And so for the entire time that they're here, we're not just giving that lady a safe place, but we're giving their children a safe place. And with that, it comes the eye-opening reality of what life on the streets looks like for a woman with a child. And so when we see those things, it changes something in you to become maybe even a little bit more protective. Rodney is a protect the ladies in the program, their kids, and you need that in a world where they'll victimize women. And so that's
something
cool.
real quick I wish people could see? You remember when we were building the women's shelter and all the traffic had to go through the chapel?
Yes.
So I was the chaplain at the time, and I remember all the girls at the program at that time.
Yeah.
And I remember their first weeks walking through the chapel.
Terrified.
Not, I'm talking about like they had literally been just drug out of Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And to watch the transformation over time, because each day they're walking through that chapel. So you're able to like really get a clear view of till they leave, till they graduate
Yeah.
and walk out totally different.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that we look like that too, but that was just something that when I would sit in the chapel and watch them come in and out, I would just say like, man, I don't even look like the same girl.
Yeah.
I don't even look like the same person. Like,
Yeah.
and you can't get that from a one-day feed or a speech or something. It's something you have to like be present every day to see how much difference you're making. And it's just for the one, right? That's what he said.
Yeah. You leave the 99 for the one.
Come on.
And I feel like that's what we do. You know, there's always one that the Lord highlights, whether it be a program student or a guest or a volunteer even, that the Lord highlights that one for you to have an encounter with them to introduce them to Jesus. And I think that's probably my favorite thing that we do here is we see the people that come in. We see them, the Lord highlights them, we get to connect with them. We get to pray with them. We get to lead him to the Lord and then hey, would you be willing program? And I just remember him looking at me and saying, I don't have anywhere else to go. And it reminded me of when, you know, Jesus says to the crowd, he says, if you don't drink of my blood, you don't eat of my flesh, you have no part in me. And they start scattering. And Jesus turns back to the disciples and he says, are you going to go too? And Peter looks at him and he says, where are we going to go? You hold the words of eternal life. Where are we going to go? And I thought for just a moment, David realized Jesus held the words to eternal life for him. And now we've had the opportunity. It's not been a perfect program for him to be here, you know, but I see every day where.
Hold up. He walking around like he run the place.
Oh, I know he does. He thinks he's the boss most of the time.
Yeah,
He's trying to tell
today.
us. But I see changing his life, but it's that meeting somebody right where they're at in the moment, without judgment, without, you know, a lecture on the importance of not cutting your own throat. He didn't need to hear that.
Right.
What he needed to hear was, hey man, there's hope.
Right.
Jesus is hope.
Right.
You have a safe place here. Let's see what we can do to help you.
Right.
And we see that every single day. I think sometimes we get up on a soapbox and we want to tell people how they're doing, you know, what they're doing wrong. And, you know, if you had to make these mistakes, you wouldn't be there. And the reality of it is, you know what? They already knew what they did wrong. You knew what you did wrong. We didn't need to beat you up with it. We just needed to meet you where you were and say, okay, yes, you've done those things, but let's reconsider moving forward. And not just leave you where we found you, but come alongside of you and say, okay, hey, here's the next step. Let's take a step together. And out of that, now we see you married. You've got a great job with a great boss. Yeah, John's a hard boss. I get it, but you've got a great boss. You're thriving in so many areas, and then at church, you know, we're partnered up. You're helping me with the men's ministry, and you've taken a lead role with that. And to see you now take that responsibility, but then also go back and to talk to the other men and talk to them in a manner that men can relate. That men can, they may not come from the same background, but they can relate to you. They
You know what I
can
tell
hear
them,
you.
Pastor? I tell them, and people say hope and faith a lot, but I take it to, I dare you.
Yeah,
Do what he says to do. It's to keep his promise.
yeah,
It's not about hoping or faith. He said he'll do this if you do this.
yeah,
So let's see who's right. You do what he say do, and then see if he does what he say do.
Yeah.
He's gonna do. And I think when you look, and then see if he does what he say do.
Yeah.
He's gonna do. And I think when you look at it from that aspect, like it may not be in the picture that you have in your head or in the time you have in your head, but I can honestly say that the things I prayed for halfway through this program, I've already bypassed them.